Hi, everybody. We are Beyond Fertility, a holistic approach. Dr. Robin Calabrese here with the amazing Corinne Baker. Corinne Baker is the founder of Hope Fertility, and I am Robin is a practitioner in whole family healthcare. And we are here, and if you've been following us on social media, we're so excited to be talking about the 4 phases of your fertility. And the first phase that we are really going to break down today is menstruation. Now, if you don't know the full 4 phases, and how we're basing this is we're basing this on a basic 28-day cycle. If you have longer cycles, times will be changed, and those are things that we can discuss at another time. But you have your menstruation phase, you have your follicle phase, you have your ovulation phase, and then you have your luteal phase. So again, I'm going to kind of pass it off to Corinne to get us started to talk about our menstruation phase.
All right, thank you for joining us. So we're just going to get talking about what's happening to your body during this phase. So with your menstruation phase, it's such an important phase. All 4 phases really need to sync together to give you a good, healthy understanding of what's going on with your body, especially with your reproductive, body and what it's doing. So with the menstruation phase, your body is pretty much shedding the uterine lining. That's because, you had an egg that was released. It did not fertilize. So at this phase, it's starting to shed. It's cleansing itself, and it's shedding the uterine lining because pregnancy did not occur. So that is what's happening during this phase. And it's an important phase because I would say at this point, your body is naturally just cleansing itself and detoxing and preparing itself to go on to the next phase where it starts to cycle all over again. And, especially when it comes to trying to get pregnant or anything, an egg really starts from like 90 days, 120 days ago. Mm-hmm. So that little egg that's being, shed from the uterine lining, it's been around 90, 120 days ago. So that's how long it actually takes to nurture that egg and grow that egg. And, if it's not fertilized, that's what happens. Menstruation now occurs. And so during this phase, you can experience a lot of symptoms. And it can be, whether it's moodiness, cravings, tired. There's several there, whether it's breast tenderness, trouble sleeping, bloating. Some people get acne. There's a lot that goes on in this phase. And it's just pay attention to what's happening when your body is sending you those signals, what's really occurring. And it tells you, what needs to be done. If you're having these cravings or bloating, etc.
And your body's telling you what you need. I mean, I had a very amazing professor very early on that called this process, it's like a self-cleaning oven. It's let it happen, honor this phase. This is something that we go through as women. And I know sometimes it's not fun. You know what I mean? Like, going back to the symptoms, if you're having trouble sleeping, I don't know about other people, but usually a couple of days before my cycle, I can't sleep, you know what I mean? And I'm going around crazy. And like the minute it starts, I like almost go to pass out because I'm so tired. Different types of food cravings. And so taking the time to really kind of honor your system and understand that it is a process and we do go through it does help you to stop, the bloating, the tenderness and things like that, because things are moving in your system. If we constantly stay in an angry state, we are keeping that sympathetic, which is our fight or flight nervous system, high. And so it's going to exacerbate all of our symptoms even more so. And acne is one of them. And I think this goes into, I guess we're going to talk a little bit later about the foods, but stay tuned for that. Because if you suffer from acne during your menstruation phase, pay attention to the food part.
Yes. Like I said, like cravings and that kind of stuff, these are all symptoms. And sometimes it even starts before the cycles happen, like you said. And it's signaling, okay, this is getting ready to happen. So you start having the cravings or the moodiness, And this is all normal, but there are some things that you can do to help to offset some of that so it doesn't really impact you, because sometimes people can get really bad, mood swings or, with different cravings or crampings and different stuff that really can incapacitate them for a couple of days. And so there's different things that you can do. And we'll get into some of those things. But there are some things that can cause some worry, and we want to be able to identify those. And if you're having these symptoms, it's time to actually talk to your doctor, because if you're experiencing things like where your cycle just suddenly stops, or it's irregular, or you're bleeding for an excessive period of time, or it's a lot more heavy than usual, or severe pain, if you're having bleeding in between cycles, these are all some things that you want to really pay attention to. Don't ignore them, and actually get to a doctor and have them to look at that and evaluate, is it okay, or is there something more?
And your body is really telling you, that it's out of balance at that point. And that's the cool part, is that we can, your body's not stupid. I mean, sometimes our mind is so strong that it'll run itself to the ground. But when you start to have these things, not menstruating till an older age, more bleeding, different things like that, these are things that are telling you that either, there's high amounts of stress, or there's other things going on in your system. So so getting yourself checked out, either through a holistic practitioner or through an OBGYN or just a regular gynecologist, or even your PCP, just trying to really understand, because it could help deal with issues that are later on, happening, because then this goes in and we'll have segments dealing with endometriosis, dysmenorrhea, different things like that. So truly understanding your cycle,
right, and
the bleeding part of it. And if you go see a holistic practitioner, I mean, they're going to ask a whole bunch, like they want to know what color the blood is. Right. Is there a smell to it? How many days are you bleeding? And you're going to get like this list of questions, and you're going to be like, what? And then, even in the past, I've used paint samples to be like, what color is it? So like you have an idea, and because sometimes I get, it's just blood. And I said, well, blood has multitude of differences, you know what I mean? And, are you spotting, and what color's the spotting? Because if it's fresh blood, which is really red, there could be reasons for that. And if it's dark brown and almost rust color, and if there is a smell, let's be honest, we all smell. It, you know what I mean? Listen, it could be from working out. It can be from everything, and girls, stop spraying things, because then that's how you start happen. But
that is so true.
But, just kind of understanding and making sure, because it's going to keep you healthy. Because even though, let's say, the time period of painful periods may only be from like menarche, which may be 12 to 14, to like you're 25, but honoring your cycle also understands where your hormones are, for osteoporosis, pregnancy later on, multitude of different hormone issues, weight issues, skin issues, mental health issues, as you continue going down the path in the future. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just went on.
There you go. And especially with stress. I mean, in this time, a lot of people are just stressed out, overwhelmed. So you may also have where your cycle does not come on time, and it's not because it's irregular. Because let's say you have regular cycles and now it's irregular, and because you're so stressed and overwhelmed with everything that's going on, it may come on days later. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong, but if this is occurring on a regular basis, you definitely want to get checked out, especially if it's not your norm.
Yes.
So, those are some things I would say to make sure that you look for that can indicate that you may need to see a doctor. And it's so important, because what you don't want to do is have something to go on for a long period of time, and then it impacts you later on when it comes to you wanting to have children. And, I've talked with some women who things have happened to them when they were younger, like in their earlier teens, 18, 19, 20 or whatever. And now they're 30s and 40s, and they're realizing that there was something that happened then that is impacting them now, why they can't conceive. Mm-hmm. Or I've had recently someone asked me about birth control. They took the shot, and so they don't get a cycle. And they've been on that since they were in their teens, and now they're an adult. Even though they've stopped it, they've had difficulties trying to conceive because they were on that for so long, and they never had a cycle for all these years. And I know some of those shots can stop the cycle, but now later on for this individual, there was a problem there. Everything checked out okay, but then they can't get pregnant. So what's going on? So it can be some hormone irregularities there.
But I said, this is where holistic health and what Karina and I both offer is so important, because you may not, this is where Western medicine kind of falls a little short, because they're trying to suppress, which isn't bad because there's a time and place for everything. But going into now, how do we build you back up? How do we create this cycle? And this goes into meridians. This goes into your organ systems. This goes into the health of your liver blood. This goes health into liver heart. There is heart blood. There's a meridian that goes from the heart to the uterus, which is your bilateral meridian. There could be blockages within there. And this is where talking to a holistic provider can really help guide you along those paths, because there could be blockages that can be actually quite easily, removed with either acupuncture, abdominal massage, and herbs as well, because I said taking everything internally. Sometimes just going through, as you mentioned before with the shot, just doing a full detox, and just, understanding that, okay, I did take the shot for a while, which is fine because that worked for me.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a different phase in my life where I want a family. I want children. I want, the next phase. Well, let's get off the shot. And then this is where, seeing a holistic provider will allow a detox program to get you to the next step. But also remember that I know sometimes when my girlfriend took the shot and she got her period back the next month, I took the shot and I haven't gotten my period back in like 3 months. And I said, well, it just kind of depends on where we're at. And if you start to detox, remember, everything goes in phases with the body. Just like you have a menstrual cycle, we deal with phases as a 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. So it also takes time. And so that you don't get frustrated with yourself, it's like going on a workout plan. Just because, you ate a bunch of Cheetos and you went and did 10 minutes on treadmill doesn't mean you worked off those 1,000 calories.
Wow. It definitely takes time. So you definitely want to detox and everything. And, this period of time with the menstruation is almost like, your body is already doing it themselves. Mother Nature is taking care of cleansing and clearing out everything out of the uterus and, purging of the egg that was not fertilized. And so during this time, it's not necessarily a time where you want to put too much on the body. Mm-hmm. Just really take time and allow it to do its job, and then you go in and detox and purge a lot of the chemicals and drugs and birth controls and everything else that may have been
that may have been just part of the issue. And it's just, just giving yourself a break, because it's like when we stop something. But this is partly my favorite part, because a lot of my mommies and different things like that going in, it's like, they come in as we start to deal with the menstrual phase. It's also dealing with acne during this stage. And so usually this does go into understanding more about the foods that you eat during this time. And Karina will be back with us shortly, so don't you worry. I'm sure we're all having technical difficulties with distance learning and Zoom meetings, so I'm happy you guys are sticking with us. But foods during this phase, let's talk about water. Water is number one. And if you talk about facial mapping, the hormonal areas are definitely going to be right here around the chin, large intestine through here, and definitely some stomach and liver right through here. And I mean, from an esthetician and dermatologist, they're definitely going to talk about this as a, the T zones. So foods to definitely eat is we definitely want to stick with water, staying hydrated. It's just, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to drink my water. I have people make fun of me because I have my gallon jug and I try to drink 2 gallons a day. But, and just making sure that we stay hydrated, just to make sure, because as you're eliminating with the body, because in Chinese medicine, qi is blood, blood is qi. And so as you are bleeding through menstruation, we need to, we need to continue to hydrate, to make sure that you are, replacing everything. Sorry, Karine just texted me. She wanted to make sure that her computer shut off. So I'm just telling her that I'm still talking. Yay. Okay. So as far as this goes, fruits, you want water-rich fruits, and also with vegetables as well. One of my favorite things, are, watermelons, cucumbers, definitely anything sweet fruits, because it's like usually during this time, I mean, we usually tend to go for chocolate, but I like my fresh raspberries and chocolate. Those are fun during this time. Leafy greens, because even though I don't know about you guys during your cycle, but sometimes I just I crave a steak just because I want that iron. I want to be replenished and I want that back. Now, before my vegans get upset, I am an O type body and I truly believe in eating right for your blood type. And so, but I do eat my leafy greens. And it's also just, you want to keep your levels up and you want to make sure so it doesn't lead to fatigue and body pain. Kale, spinach, spinach is also high in magnesium, which is also very great because your uterus is a muscle as well. And so if you are cramping during this time, making sure that you're eating your spinach is going to give you that natural magnesium back in your system. Hold on, I'm texting Kareem right now. So also we're trying to get cream back in. So hold on one second. Ginger is great. Ginger is great. Its anti-inflammatory effects. This is also really good because sometimes I love to do pickled ginger, especially during this time as well. I mean, if some people don't like ginger, but I understand, but pickled ginger is just great for all the anti-inflammatory responses. And especially if you have acne going on during your menstruation. If you have acne going on, oh, you're back! Yay! Okay.
Technical difficulties, like my computer literally shut down. So I apologize, everyone.
No, we're awesome. Keep going. We're just talking about all the good foods, and different things. And right now we are continually talking about ginger right now and about how ginger has its amazing, anti-inflammatory effects, to soothe achy muscles. And since the uterus is a muscle and when it starts to cramp, as well, and also with the spinach and the magnesium, because I said what those can do. And I was sharing with our fans, that I love pickled ginger during this time. That is actually a huge craving of mine.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll go get those, the pickled ginger things and I'll just start eating them. My husband's like, oh God, that's like his cue. He's like, all right.
And see, I just love the ginger. I literally buy the ginger root. I boil it and drink it. Just like no sugar.
I want to try that.
Yes, I love it. I buy literally, like right now I have one that's about this big, ginger root. And I just break off piece, peel it, oil it, and drink it. And it's really good. It's very good for digestion.
How long do you boil it for? How long do you boil it for?
I don't know. Let me see. Maybe like 10 minutes or so.
Share that recipe because I'd like to try that. Maybe share it to our fans because I said some people may like ginger tea, and I said it's like it's hot and spicy and
it has a little tingle to it, but it's really good, especially for like if you have like an upset stomach. It's also very good for that as well. So ginger is awesome.
So it's good. So we're good with our computer. We're all good to go.
I hope so. That was really weird. I'm like, that's never happened. I'm like, why are you shutting down on me? But okay, I'm back.
And I love how you got back in. So it's awesome. So yay.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to, we have chicken, which was such another great iron resource, and different things like that. It's like I said, sometimes I just crave red meat, but sometimes that's not always a good option. So something, that if you are a meat eater, and I'll admit it, I am. And I shared with our people before, but I'm an O type. And so I like to eat right for my blood type. And so I said, for my vegans, there are other options, but I said, it's like, eating protein is very good. And especially, for my blood type, if I don't keep my protein levels up, my menstrual cycle can be much more, the tiredness can come in, the achiness, the moodiness, and also the acne. And so, making sure, obviously, having a well-balanced diet because you are fueling yourself, before all this, that's part of the reason, that we have these cravings prior to this because your body is trying to tell you what you are missing, different things like that. You know, sometimes it's salty, sometimes it's sweet. You know, if you're having a salty craving, usually it's because your body's craving some type of magnesium because, you know, your muscles are tiredness, you know. So maybe instead of going for like the bag of chips, I'm not going to say I don't because I do. Right. But you know, let's not pretend we don't. You know, like, you know, instead of for dinner, you know, instead of maybe getting a baked potato with dinner, you know, maybe adding, you know, spinach, you know, fresh spinach leaves or something like that. Just also get that, you know, the magnesium.
Right. And it's really so good because, you know, during that phase, you know, your body is losing so much at the time, and it can drain you, especially with the iron. Your iron levels can drop. And some people get anemic. And, you know, anemic is, you know, your iron levels get so low that you're always tired all the time. And having your menstrual cycle every month, it just drains you and drains you. So if you don't replenish, you know, you just constantly stay in that drained state all month, and you repeat it over and over and over. So you have to build your blood and get your levels back up so that you can function without feeling so drained and tired all the time. And food can do that, as well as, you know, supplements and stuff also.
And I said, you know, just truly understanding, it's like, because it's, you know, this is a process that, you know, we do have a process, just like men have a process, women have a process, you know. And, you know, building ourselves back up every month will help to make sure that, and there's many ways to do it, you know, and these are conversations, you know, and Karina and I had talked about this earlier, and we'll touch on it again about really going with the telehealth medicine side, because if you are having questions about, you know, if it is, you know, food, you know, that you are curious about, like, how can I build myself up? And it may be herbs that you need, but it could be like a food plan, you know, that either Karina or I could put together for you and to help guide you along that, along that way, that, you know, maybe just adding in these foods and, you know, food tracking for yourself and your cycle and understanding what you're craving can also help guide you a little bit more, so you don't have these quote unquote PMS symptoms in your days. Yeah.
And another thing that I love, like I do for myself, because I get chocolate cravings. And so like dark chocolate is great if you have, is it 80% of the cocoa, or it has to have a higher cocoa content, and that's great, but it's bitter. So I like milk chocolate.
And bitter is such a great, bitter is definitely a liver, a liver taste, because each of your organs, from a Chinese medicine point of view, each of your organs has a taste and a flavor. You know, so like spleen is sweet, lungs, liver is bitter, kidneys are black. The color of kidneys are black, so black foods are good. Kidneys, liver is green, and so they kind of go on and so forth. And we'll have a whole nother talk on that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine. But I find almonds take away the cravings.
Ooh.
Yeah, I learned that from my gynecologist some years ago. He's like,
I didn't realize that.
Eat a handful of almonds will take away your cravings. So, and it's a healthy option because it's actually great for menstruation during that time to help with the cravings. So if you eat a handful of almonds, not the ones that have the salt in on it, just plain almonds, it really helps with the cravings. So
yes.
Try it and see if it works for you if you're having those issues.
So what about because we also mentioned, you know, flaxseed oil and stuff like that.
It's really I love flaxseed oil myself.
Do you cook with it, or do you add it into a shake? Like how would you eat it?
I actually do the supplement, the pill, and then actually seeds that I would sprinkle onto smoothies or foods and then eat it like that also. So either or, I use both ways, flaxseed, but I find flaxseed to be very helpful.
Good, I like that.
Yeah. You have something to add?
No, we're just gonna say, you know, just especially for our vegans, you know, different things, you know, and lentils, beans, and quinoa is great. You know, definitely great, because I said I know we do talk about, you know, meat and protein sometimes, but you can get, you know, a lot of this stuff like that. And just because you're vegan doesn't mean that, or vegan or vegetarian doesn't mean that you don't get the protein levels that you need. You know what I mean? And so I said, there's a lot that can happen during this time that you can get it through that stuff. And one of my favorites, and what I've always recommended to people, is peppermint tea, you know, and just, you know, are some kind of mint tea, you know. Yes. And I said a lot of different cultures and a lot of different things, you know, they have then if you go back traditionally and you really kind of understand, and you go back to those traditional healers during the time of menstruation, they're always recommending mint tea to especially help with any type of nausea, menstrual cramps during this time to help soothe anything like that.
Right. And I love mint tea. So I'm a big tea type person, so I'll try different teas. But mint is very good. I remember started taking it as a young child, and we'll give it to babies. That would be one of the first things. So, and as you grow older, having Caribbean, coming from the Caribbean and having that background, we're big into teas and herbals. So mint tea is great. Also, you have things like cinnamon. That's great. And you just boil the sticks and drink the water. You're gonna
have to start posting these recipes because I don't do any of that stuff, and I find that to be awesome. Especially at this time. Because since we're all in quarantine time, one thing that I've heard a lot from my patients is that they are getting excited to try new things, and so I would have never. I mean, it's not like you never think about it, but boiling the ginger root or boiling, just the cinnamon sticks. I find that awesome.
It's so good for fertility. It's one of the things in the Caribbean, it's like cinnamon is huge for fertility. And who would have ever thought cinnamon sticks?
I know in Chinese medicine, we call it gansao. And so when you start to really look at it and you start to see labels and when you see gansao, you'll start to see it's such a harmonizing herb, But again, we're all about menstruation. We are totally going to get into like the food therapy of it and different things like that and how you can compare, food therapy with, Chinese herbs to be able to understand, what you're taking and why you're taking it,
Right.
No, I don't want to avoid food. I feel like this is our next thing.
I know topic. And it's always the good stuff, but it's like, okay, so, of course, no alcohol.
I know. No coffee. And my husband's Sicilian, and it's like the amount of coffee we drink, I think it's insane in the household.
Yeah.
My poor adrenals. But
It's like, so you're going through this phase of detoxing and flushing. They're telling you no alcohol. Why? It dehydrates the body. It can give you headaches. You don't want to feel like you're having a hangover, while you're on your cycle. So no alcohol, no coffee. Definitely, stay away from sugar. That's not good. It's like, I'm not a big fan of dairy. I don't like things that's going to cause more inflammation and pain and discomfort. So I avoid dairy a lot.
And for our dairy eaters, for people it doesn't bother, there is a phase in your cycle that it is a good place to do it, but just not necessarily in your menstrual phase. So like not poo-pooing dairy eaters, by the way. So I said
I like dairy in moderation. I like a good macaroni and cheese.
I know. I'm the same way with you, just because it has such inflammatory responses with the system. And so just, again, your body's detoxing. So, adding the coffee, adding the alcohol, adding spicy foods, adding red meat and all that stuff like that can be more taxing on your system as your body's trying to eliminate.
Right.
So I said, just again, honoring your system, and allowing this to happen, just foregoing a lot of those things for a couple of days and different things. You will start to notice that as you go into your follicle phase, that you will be stronger in that phase, and you won't feel like there is so much recovery. And I'm sure a lot of you women out there know what we're talking about. It's like, let's say, we can't always plan our lives around our menstrual cycle, but let's say you went on a cruise or you went and had a great dinner and great red wine and all this stuff like that, but you notice like after your period's over, there's that huge recovery time going into ovulation. And so making sure that, and especially if you're trying to get pregnant, we want to make sure that you are strong enough to have ovulation so that ovulation and then sperm and egg can implant and then all that good stuff.
Yeah. You just don't want the body to have to work any harder than it has to.
Correct. Because it's working very hard as it is.
So the next thing we want to touch on is just, some menstrual cramping remedies. If you're having those horrible cramps, what do you do? A lot of times, heating pads are very good for that. Just staying warm, trying to stay warm. I would say put socks on your feet. Try to stay warm. Keep your body warm to help reduce the cramping. There's some other things that you can do as far as teas, even massages believe it or not, can help reduce menstrual cramping, massaging your stomach or your back, and also some exercises have proven to be helpful. So some light cardio and yoga have been very good to help reducing. And of course, you have your over-the-counter Tylenol medications that you can take. But for a natural approach, try some of those things, stretching. Because if you can get your body stretching and stuff, it can help reduce a lot of cramping and the extra pain that you're having. So light exercises can really help with that. And some of the other things, hot compresses and
yeah, baths, warm showers, and like you said, just keeping your body temperature up. But like from a Chinese medicine point of view, this is a great time that we like to use herbs. And, because what happens is that, so you kind of have an understanding, each organ system has its own qi. And so when it is very important, because the liver is a huge detoxifier, but the liver also controls blood for menstruation. So if the liver is clamped in any way, you know what I mean, it's not also doing its normal function of detoxification and all that other stuff like that, and bile production, that it is going to cause issues going into menstruation because the uterus is not functioning properly. So in Chinese medicine, we call this liver qi stagnation. So there's a lot of different herbs that we can take to help eliminate that, if you want to go more the holistic and not use ibuprofen and other type of anti-inflammatory stuff. But if you want to do a supplementation right, some of the recommendations is MSM and curcumin. Great to over-the-counter supplements that are great just to help with tissue and help with anti-inflammatories. And curcumin, just so you know, is basically, is called curcumin. It's basically broken down turmeric. What makes turmeric such a huge anti-inflammatory is it's the curcuminoids within the turmeric that work. And so they have basically biohacked the turmeric to make it have the curcumin. And so understanding where your products are coming from and what you're taking. But those are some more of a holistic option for you. Right.
And it said, there's many other teas out there that are great for during this time that you can try. And, some of those things like we mentioned was peppermint, cinnamon, dandelion root. That's another great one. Of course, ginger, fennel tea. So there is some other stuff. There's one cramp bark and black haw. So there's some other things that can also be very helpful during this phase and help with the cramping and discomfort of the menstrual phase. So there are some things that you can do. And then, like we were discussing earlier about the consultations. Sometimes you may say, I don't want acupuncture because I'm not very good with needles. And I was one of those people, but I fell in love with acupuncture, and I do it all the time. So in addition, you may say, okay, I just want to know what to take. I just want to know what to do. And this would be a great time, just have a consultation for herbs and just try to get an idea of what can I start taking during the whole menstrual phase. So not only just maybe menstruation, but all the other phases as well. You can get a whole consultation, identify what herbs to take, and talk with the holistic doctor and get those herbs and what you need to take during each phase. And you can actually have a consultation for that at either one of our locations. You can schedule that with our Dr. Robin Calabrese or even Dr. Veronica Tynes, who's at Hope Fertility. So there's options for you, at least to learn what to take, what supplements, the teas, or herbs that you need to consume for your specific condition.
And so you understand, like going back into that specific condition, I said, it's like, so what you will receive is when you receive these, herbal, we're moving. What you will receive when you receive this stuff is that you will have your chief complaint, let's say painful periods. Then you will have your Western diagnosis, and then you'll also, which may be dysmenorrhea, that many different things, endometriosis, whatever that is. But then you also have a Chinese medicine diagnosis. And then through that, you also have a lot of information describing on what that is, comparing. So you understand in a Western point of view, as well as in an Eastern point of view, what you're doing along with your herbal recommendations for you. And not only just herbal, but also, supplementation as well. Right. And there's many different ways to take that. And that can be done via telehealth as well, not only just through the office, because we do understand people are still in quarantine during this time and people may not feel comfortable coming out, or you may not live near us. And this is also, a shout out to other practitioners who are fertility practitioners or who want to help people like that. And we want to be able to also help refer people to you as well, especially being in other states and kind of like, working on this community, because there is a very old saying, it does take a village to raise a child. And it also does take a village, apparently, to create a child too. And so we want to create this village, of holistic and Western practitioners, in order to help you, get to where you want to be. And this is also just understanding your body, because let's be honest, sex ed education, is lacking, and we're going to talk a lot about that going into the next couple of days. So this might be some new information, that I have some women who are in their 40s and 45 who've never tracked their cycle.
Yeah.
And they just, and they're in different things. And they're like, well, why would I need to do that? And so, tracking your cycle and understanding, and we'll have, after the 4 weeks of this, we'll go into like tracking your cycle, your BPA, your ovulation. Yeah.
Sure.
We're live, I can't remember, the basal temperature and things like that, and understanding what all that is. Because I said, sometimes it's not always about having a child, it's truly understanding your body. Because if we keep you, the vessel, healthy,
right,
having a child will come naturally.
Right. And that's so important. So like I said, don't be afraid to reach out to us and get that consultation, schedule that, talk with one of the doctors, try to understand what's going on with your body, because you don't want to just start taking random stuff. And I know we've mentioned this before in previous videos. Don't just start taking random things, because we want to only know what's specific to your condition. So yes, you might be having cramping, but you may also be having, like you said, some endometriosis going on or something else. It could be uterine fibroids or whatever else. So that could be contributing to the very painful cramping. And when you have uterine fibroids, I've had them. You can have some intensive fibroids sometimes, the pain. And so, you want to be able to treat those conditions, not just I'm having painful cycles or I'm bleeding heavy, because fibroids can do that also. But you want to treat what is causing that to happen.
So we are so excited. I hope this has been informative. Again, the 4 phases of your cycle is truly, like, this is a passion of mine, because if you can understand this with you, it can take you far. And please email us at beyondfertility2@gmail.com with any of your questions. We can help guide you along the path. You can also view this on our Facebook page, on Instagram, as well as, and you can see it scrolling along the bottom, and as long as YouTube as well. And we are here to kind of help guide you, through that, because we want you to understand that your cycle is who you are.
Right.
And how we can make it next. Yeah. And phase 2 next week.
Yeah. So we will be going to phase 2, which is the follicular week.
Yes.
So, that's a very important week right there. So please stay tuned. Also, like and share this video, because you just never know how many women are out here facing this problem, who just want to know, where do I turn for help? And they don't know where. So if you share this video on your Facebook or whatever, Instagram, share it, because you never know who you can be helping. So please share our videos so we can get the word out, so we can help other women who are in the same situation.
I love it. Thank you, guys.
All right. See ya next week.
Yes, next week, phase 2.
All right. Bye-bye.